Hello, everybody. Happy Friday. Welcome to Popcorn Planet. I am It's Kim filling in for Andy whilst he is on vacation for another Diddy trial recap day. It is day 27 of the Diddy trial. And today we finally had Branden Paul take the stand as well as another expert. And we are going to get into all of those details today. Thank you guys all so much for being here. Please make sure you hit that like button on your way in. I would really, really appreciate that. And make sure you subscribed because we'd love to see you come back. My goodness, everyone, we finally had a day in court. It actually happened. After Wednesday being a complete washout because there was a juror that was sick. And then, of course, yesterday being a holiday, we had no court. So we are finally back. So we're going to get into the recap. I'm just giving a moment for people to come in on the live stream. Hello to everybody on the podcast. I did want to say quickly before we start today's recap, I want to say a huge thank you to all of you guys. This is going to be one of probably, I think, maybe the last recap I do by myself because Andy is coming back next week, and I did just want to say a huge thank you to everybody for your love, your support, your patience, your understanding, and just coming here to listen to me do this. I really, really do appreciate it. I love these recaps. I love being here, and thank you guys so much for embracing me the way that you have. I so appreciate it. So we are going to get into this recap. Let's pull up the information. Let's go over where we are because we got lots to talk about. So to begin, just as I said, before the jury came in, the Diddy trial was adjourned for the day on Wednesday after one of the jurors called in sick. The judge has said since the start of the trial that he wants to be done by July 4th. Prosecutors were expected to rest their case today, but with Wednesday's delay, they likely will not rest until sometime on Monday. And the defense has said they expect to use between 2 to 5 trial days. Hold on to that thought. We got a bit of a bombshell at the end of today. To make their case, and closing arguments will take additional time. All of those steps need to happen before the jury begins deliberating. Now, as far as the juror stuff, the judge has denied a request from the defense team regarding a sealed issue as to a juror. We don't know which one, we don't know what's happening, but the judge did not elaborate, but it's unclear what the request was. But whatever the request was, it has been denied. And I don't have any other updates about the jury at this time, everybody, so there's nothing really new for me to share. Janice and Justin are in court today. So they came to support their dad. And then we also had some evidence get released to the public. So today we had some text messages that came out. We also had some images. So I wanted to share those with you guys before we get into testimony because they're not really related specifically to the testimony. If they were, I would have kind of put them together. But we got some pictures from the LA raid. Everyone, I present to you more photos of Baby Oil and Astroglide. There were a lot of photos that were released, but a number of them have arms in them, which I cannot show you guys on screen. But there were many arms. So other than that, I can show you guys the Baby Oil. So here's more of it. There's more Astroglide and Baby Oil in that drawer. Just a bit. Then we had a bag. There we go. There's more of it. More Astroglide and Baby Oil. For those of you on the podcast, we were just looking at an insane amount of Astroglide and Baby Oil. More in a pantry of Baby Oil. You could see the Johnson & Johnson over there. So sorry to Johnson & Johnson that they have been dragged into this. But this photo, to me, is the biggest one. For those of you that cannot see, each of these boxes that are stacked have the name Astroglide written on them. So I'm just going to, I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. There's a lot of boxes. There's a lot of boxes of Astroglide, and that is separate from everything else that we have seen in these other photos. So that was definitely a moment today when that all got released. There you go. You've all seen it now. Yeah, Anime Girl 300 said just seeing all this stuff is crazy. It's a lot. It's a lot. I know there are reasons sometimes where people have a lot of one thing, but to me, sometimes I start asking questions. Why is that much necessary? Is it ever necessary? I don't know. But then we moved into Brendan Paul, who finally took the stand. Now, we talked about him a bit yesterday. No, not yesterday. It would have been Wednesday on the recap, where I just tried to give some background on why people were really interested in Brendan taking the stand, and that his history with Diddy, that he was an alleged substance mule of his and personal assistant. So, Paul took the stand today. He has previously invoked his Fifth Amendment and has been given immunity. And prosecutor Christy Slavic is questioning Paul. So Paul said that he worked as an assistant to Diddy from late 2022 after graduating college and stopped working for Diddy when he was arrested on March 25th, 2024 in a Miami airport. So to be clear, that's when Brendan Paul was arrested, not when Diddy was arrested. He said he was on his way to a family vacation with Diddy when he was arrested for possession of what we're going to call white powder. I'm going to have to use a lot of code words today, guys. I'm really sorry. I'm going to do my best to hopefully help you guys understand, but I have to follow the YouTube community guidelines. Hello, YouTube human reviewer. I am trying. It was in my go yard bag for personal assistant duties. Paul said that he was sweeping Diddy's room and grabbed the white powder to put it somewhere else but forgot to remove it from his own bag before leaving for the trip. Paul testified that he first heard about the opportunity to be Diddy's personal assistant from Ellie Maroon, one of Diddy's former assistants. I'm going to call them EM moving forward. He told me to just get in, get out. If you have a girlfriend, break up with her, and you're never going to see your family, Paul testified. He understood that EM was telling him that it was going to be a really tumultuous job that required all of my attention. Paul interviewed for the position in the fall of 2022 at Diddy's Los Angeles home. Before entering the home, he said he gave his ID to Diddy's security and signed an NDA. He met with KK and Frankie Santella, Diddy's music manager, for about 20 minutes. Paul said that he started working for Diddy a few days later. In his first few weeks on the job, Paul said that he worked out of Diddy's LA home and mainly received instructions from other assistants. Paul said he divided assistant duties with Diddy's other personal assistants. Paul testified he helped handle Diddy's travel logistics and packing and helped Diddy with his fitness workouts, meal plans, and music-related needs. Paul also said that he would pack what I'm going to call flower joinery in Diddy's garage. I'm honestly wondering if all of those pictures of the Astroglide stacked were in the garage. There's things that happen in that garage. Oh dear. Paul said he typically worked between 80 to 100 hours a week. He said he would usually work between 4 to 6 days a week, but he was always on call. His starting salary was $75K a year, he testified, and later got a raise to $100K. He testified that he was paid by Combs Enterprises. Paul said he frequently traveled for work. He flew with Diddy on his private jet 3 or 4 times, but said he usually traveled separately so that he could get there early to set up his rooms. So when you walked in, everything was seamless and he had everything he needed. Paul said sometimes other employees, like stylists and photographers, would travel early with him as well. When he traveled for work, Paul said Diddy's travel manager would book his travel. Paul said that the longest time period he worked without sleep was when they were in New York releasing Diddy's latest album. Paul stayed awake for about 3 days, although he took some naps in between. He said, I was young, I was able to handle it. Paul did testify that he took prescription Addy and the rare use of white powder to help him stay awake and alert during his employment. He also said he smoked flower during his employment too. Paul testified that his job was to make sure that Diddy was happy and to carry out all requests to his satisfaction because the music mogul didn't take no for an answer. Diddy compared his staff to the assistants of SEAL Team 6, demanding they move with no failures. An impulsive Diddy actually fired Paul multiple times, including once for forgetting to bring his boss's Lululemon fanny pack. Chief of Staff KK told Paul to keep a low profile and it'd blow over. He recalled seeing Diddy a few days later, and he said just to say hey. Diddy never discussed the incident with him again. The witness recalled being asked to buy thousands of dollars worth of substances. He recounted meeting up with dealers named Guido, One Stop, Baby Girl, and Ovi. Paul also said it wasn't a thing to talk to human resources about any issues. He says if anyone had an issue, they went to Diddy or KK, which like that's a red flag city for me right there. You should be able to talk to HR. There should be an HR. He alleged the rapper once asked him to oh, I'm sorry, I skipped one point. He recalls being asked to buy thousands of dollars worth of substances. These substances included specific strands of flour, white powder, pink powder, K, K-pops, and Tusi, a combination of K and poly with an M. I hope some of that made sense. He alleged the rapper once asked him to sample a pink substance at Coachella to prove his loyalty. He followed the order. He said he tried it and felt euphoric but didn't feel the full effect. He asked if it was good. I said yes, and I kept working, he said. Paul said that he helped set up multiple FOs, also referred to as Wild King Nights, and then also cleaned up afterwards for the rapper and his girlfriend. Paul said he'd prepared the hotel rooms 3 to 4 times for Diddy and his girlfriend, and afterward, Paul would go to these rooms to clean up the mess. Paul put gloves on for sanitary reasons when he was cleaning up. The sessions also sometimes took place at Diddy's Miami and Los Angeles homes and at his girlfriend Jane's house too. Paul said that after the Cassie lawsuit, Diddy stopped using hotels for FOs. Paul also mentioned Robin at TriStar when asked how he'd put in for the cash. So we believe that that would be Robin Greenhill again from Lou Taylor's TriStar Sports Entertainment. So for those of you keeping track at home, there's another reference. Justice for Britney. Paul testified that he had a long list of items he needed to pack for Diddy on the defendant's hotel nights. He said he needed to make sure Diddy had his toiletries, lights, candles, incense, protection, liquor, soup, Astroglide, and a Gucci pouch, which contains substances, the witness said. Paul said he also had to pack $5,000 of cash for Diddy. The jury then saw photos of a photo of outfits from an adult shop that Paul sent to Diddy. Paul testified that Diddy had asked him to run to the store while he was with Jane, but Diddy never responded after Paul sent the picture of the outfits. The jury saw a photo of a hotel room with sheets covering the furniture. Paul testified that he sent a photo to Diddy's travel manager to give her a heads up that there might be some damage charges. Paul cleaned up hotel rooms after Wild King Nights, about 3 or 4 times. He testified that the rooms were in disarray and he would put towels and sheets in a pile and throw out empty bottles of baby oil and liquor. Paul said he wore gloves for sanitary reasons. One time, Paul saw a white powder that he believed was a substance residue. The jury saw a photo of the hotel room with sheets covering the furniture, and Paul testified that he sent the photo to Diddy's travel manager. That's a bit of a repeat, but yes, that definitely there was communication about the damage within the rooms. The jury saw messages between Paul and a substance dealer and another one of Diddy's assistants, Jonathan Perez. Paul testified that Perez put him in touch with the dealer to obtain substances for Diddy. Is it for you or Puff? The dealer asked in the messages. Puff, Paul responded, according to messages read aloud in court. But please don't disclose that. You can tell whoever it's for me. Paul said once he received the substances, he would give them directly to Diddy or put them in the Gucci pouch where the substances were stored. Paul testified that he would pick up prescription substances for Diddy at pharmacies under Diddy's real name or the alias Frank Black. The jury saw messages Diddy sent Paul on February 14th of 2024 asking him to get a prescription medication that starts with X and ends in X. Paul testified that Diddy didn't have a prescription for XX and he wasn't able to obtain the substances. The jury then saw a selfie of Diddy, KK, and Paul on a private jet taken on March 25th of 2024 before Paul was arrested for white powder possession at the Miami Apalaca Executive Airport. They were about to take off on a flight to the Bahamas for a vacation with Diddy's family, Paul said. Paul testified he hasn't seen or spoken to Diddy basically since that photo was taken. When Paul was arrested for the white powder possession, the witness said he refused to tell authorities why he was carrying those substances. Even though the substances were not his, Paul said he didn't give up any names. When the prosecutor asked why he wasn't initially helpful to law enforcement, Paul said loyalty. And with that, cross-examination began. So Brian Steele, Diddy's attorney, came in to do that. He's been pretty intense in some cross-examinations. So Brian Steele started asking, "You are not some substance mule, right?" Steele asked. "Absolutely not," Paul replied. Paul said he wasn't peddling substances, but rather he was just transporting Diddy's substances for personal use. "What are you doing on a few occasions of out of 18 months? You are talking about a minuscule amount of times getting substances, right?" Steele asks. "Yes," Paul answered. So basically, they're trying to argue that out of the amount of time that Paul worked for Diddy, that the substance acquiring was a very small fraction of the time and not his main job. And this seems to be a little bit of a theme that they're really trying to show here, that Branden was not hired to be a substance mule, which has been a term that has been used to talk about him since his arrest. We'll get more into that later, but this is mainly, I think, what they were trying to fight during Cross. Paul was actually first referred to as Diddy's substance mule in a lawsuit filed against the hip hop mogul by Lil Rod Jones, and that $30 million lawsuit is still pending. When talking about Wild King Nights, Paul said, "I considered it to be like an escape," confirming that he believed it was Diddy's personal time to be alone with Jane. Paul testified that he often spoke with Jane before a Wild King Night and almost every time afterward. He confirmed that he never saw anything that made him think that she was hesitant or not a willing participant. Steele asked about Paul's arrest on March 25th of 2024. Paul confirmed that his arrest was for a small amount of white powder for Diddy's personal use that Paul had accidentally left in his travel bag. Neither Diddy nor Chief of Staff KK asked him to travel with the white powder, Paul testified. Paul recalled telling law enforcement that everything in the bag was his, and then his heart dropped when the agent pulled out the white powder out of the bag because he didn't mean to travel with it. Defense attorney Brian Steele then asked Brian Paul if he would work for a criminal. "Absolutely not," Paul testified. Steele asked Paul if he felt indebted to Diddy for the experience he received working with him. Paul responded, I guess, what do you mean by indebted?" Steele asked if Paul had learned a lot from Diddy, and Paul confirmed that he had. Steele then asked if he had good experiences working with Diddy, and Paul said, for the most part. I have to say, for me, this exchange was bizarre to me. Asking Branden if he would ever work for a criminal. Absolutely not. While simultaneously admitting to speaking with substance dealers to acquire illegal goods to then give to his boss. It was definitely a moment. So the redirect came. And on redirect, the prosecution had Paul confirm that he was not present for the Wild King Nights and that Diddy didn't give him $5,000 cash in another context. The prosecution then said, "You wouldn't work for a criminal, but you bought substances for Mr. Combs?" Paul responded, "Yes, more than 5 times, less than 10. I can't. He was then asked how he felt about Diddy, and Paul responded, "It was complicated." With that, Branden was off the stand, and he left. Now, after he left, Paul's attorney issued a statement saying that his testimony was crystal clear and he was never a substance mule for Diddy or anyone else. He was subpoenaed to come to court and tell the truth, which he did, word for word. Now that Branden has finally had the opportunity to tell his full story about his employment, we are hopeful that the last 15 months of defamatory statements about him will cease. So to be clear to to Paul's attorney and to him, not trying to defame him whatsoever. This has been a term that has been used to describe him over the past 15 months. That's why I've tried to say alleged and things like that. But I mean, there definitely was some activity to do with acquiring substances for Diddy by Branden's own admission. So, with that, Brandon Paul's part of this ended. So, before they took a break and after Brandon had left, prosecutor Madison Smizer showed the jury a text thread. The jury saw messages between Diddy and Cassie between March 12th and 14th of 2017. Diddy sent Cassie a hotel room number and then told her to call him. Hours later, Cassie texted him, "WTF, really? I think it'll always be black and white. You threw out all my ish." In later messages, she said, "You best my head in," later correcting it to beat. "You're crazy," Diddy responded. "Let's stop talking. You dead wrong. Flippin' on me for what?" Cassie texted back, "Ain't flippin'. I can come back so we can talk about it. Talk, but you know I fight." In later messages, Diddy said, "So we're clear at this time. We're taking a break. This is really how you want to leave this? You sure?" Cassie then responded, "No, I just don't want to be beat down for being defiant, or ever. You treat me and make me feel like I don't matter." Diddy texted back, "You started all this." Cassie sent back, "I guess I'm not down with ABUSE. It doesn't make sense to me." She later wrote, "You hit me in my head 2 good times. That didn't make me feel good. I know I'm not crazy." Diddy responded, "I'm hurt. You have disrespected me so much in the last 12 months. Wow, you think you could just talking to on censored your little F boys? They can have you with that ish. I'm not talking no more." Then a 2017 exchange, Cassie texted Diddy, "That's not love, that's possession. I have bleeding cut." Diddy then said, "I'm not going to let someone ish on me when all I've been is nice. You don't treat me like a king. You was acting like a bee. You're whack for not keeping it real." Later in the conversation, Diddy asked Cassie if she'd ever gotten numbers for female workers. Cassie texted Diddy on March 18th, "You're at a point in your life where you want to party and have a good time, and I have to focus or I'll never become anything." She also wrote, "I had so much fun in Miami, and then I realized I opened the door, that being my sole purpose in seeing you. I knew if I said no to it in New York, it would have been a problem." She continued, "You treat me like a censored worker. To be honest, you always want to call me, and you have one. This worker has been here for 10 years. Diddy responded, "Wow." After the initial reading, another text message was entered in by the defense, in which from Cassie, which read, "I love our FOs when we both want it." There were also other text messages that were released today to the general public, so I can share some of that. These were from Jane. So the text was sent on December 7th of 2023, which read, "I'm crying. I'm so triggered by this because it's too close to some nights I felt forced. Please stop using substances and using women for your F-ish nights. It creates demons inside of us and real trauma to women who are only doing it to please you. Let that pain on other women stop with me. Leave women alone who don't want to do those nights with you. Hire workers and stop emotionally harming women who love you." I'm guessing that was probably in reference to Cassie's lawsuit, because there's been a number of things where Jane has said that reading Cassie's lawsuit was like reading her own trauma, and it was really, really hard for her. So I'm guessing that may be what that's in reference to. In another text from Jane sent on October 17th, Jane wrote, "You want me to suck some D so you can get off to an island with Gina or Young and have me do the dirty ish in hotel room after hotel room." A few hours after Jane's text was sent, Diddy sent her one back in which that said, "I'm not even aroused no more." And then we had the next witness who took the stand. And I really hope I'm saying this right. Joseph Cercelio. I'm going to call him Joseph moving forward. He's a special agent from Homeland Security Investigations. He is expected to be one of the last witnesses to be called by the prosecution before lawyers for Diddy take over. Maureen Comey is asking the questions for the prosecution. Joseph tells the court that he had no involvement with the case prior to the trial, but reviewed charts and exhibits a few weeks ago. He is one of the several summary witnesses called by the prosecution. These are the government agents who are reading aloud text messages and travel records and other document-based evidence. Joseph introduced a chart with 44 entries from May of 2021 to August of 2024. He explained the chart includes location, individuals' names, and transportation records associated with different date ranges. Joseph is reviewing the charts of evidence compiled by the prosecutors to confirm the information in the charts corresponds with the underlying exhibits, which include thousands of pages of text messages, as well as phones and financial records. He said the 44 entries in the chart range, out of all of the entries, the only woman's name in the chart is Jane. So everybody else seems like it is men. I'm assuming the workers, Diddy himself, etc. He said before accuser Cassie's lawsuit was filed, most of the locations were hotels. After the lawsuit was filed, none of them were at hotels. Joseph said there were 3 of these events after Diddy posted an Instagram video on May 19th of 2024. The chart that Joseph is testifying about is similar to the ones that we saw earlier this week, the special agents with the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Southern District of New York. Joseph testified that the charts do not include every time Jane and Diddy were at a particular location, but these were the instances with documentation to support it. The defendant checked out of Bal Harbour Resort on December 6th of 2021 with a $6,000 bill for damages, according to records shown in court. He also left the London Hotel West Hollywood, where he stayed from January 20th to 23rd in 2023, after doing $3,750 worth of damage, records showed. Those damages included fluid stains on wood floors, linens, and other areas of the room. Diddy, under the name Frank Black, returned to the West Hollywood Hotel for an April 23rd to 25th stay in 2023, causing another $1,800 of damage, records showed. So there was a quote here from a security incident report that said, room 917, linens and smoking in room, linens soaked in baby oil on carpet, as well as evidence of smoking in room. Diddy regularly checked out of hotels with 4 digits worth of damage to rooms, earlier testimony has shown. The evidence chart referenced some of Diddy's text messages with Jane. The messages showed the two coordinating the arrival of 3 men at a hotel. One of those men deposited $1,500 cash at ATMs in Los Angeles in the days following the hotel reservation. The jury also saw a message Diddy sent to Jane, telling her to send $1,100 to Cowboys for Angels for a service, for flights, and an overnight rate. There was also mention of Paul Arthur and Arthur Fitness LLC. There was an ATM cash deposit of $900 and then $600. It was also mentioned that Fahim's cell phone was seized. Fahim Muhammad, the security person, I believe. Other texts are discussed, one sent by KK, another sent from Jonathan to Fahim, which says, I don't know if you're holding $10,000, Fahim responds, trying to get some more now. The jury then was shown a note on the phone of Diddy's head of security, Fahim Muhammad, on April 25th, 2024, stating that $5,000 PD personal London. The jury has seen evidence that Muhammad kept track of some of the spending reimbursement for Diddy's personal cash expenses. And with that, the jury was released. Now, after the jury, the lawyers discussed finishing testimony for this witness on Monday. So the prosecution is expecting to finish probably by about lunch hour, and then it will go over to the defense for cross-examination. Now, this was when Agnifilo kind of shocked me. Agnifilo said that if the government rests on Monday, that they will rest, the defense will rest on Tuesday or Wednesday, which means closing statements would be next Thursday. They have 2 days, if that, the defense of witnesses. I was expecting far more from them. I don't know what that means. To me, that is that doesn't look good for the defense, but perhaps they have a method. I don't know what it's going to be, but it very much looks like next week, everyone, Thursday could very well be closing statements, which means the jury would then get direction, you know, Thursday, Friday, and we are definitely reaching the end of this trial. So I was very surprised. I am seeing you guys in the chat being surprised as well, that coming through. Like, I'm sorry, brain, like mind blown. Exactly. Same. Samesies. Same. And with that, that was what happened in court today. We did end early today at 1. One of the jurors had their son's graduation, and apparently this was told very early on in the process that they would not be able to be here this afternoon. So they said, okay, we'll shorten the day and we'll keep going. So that is what's going on. That's why we're doing this recap so early. And that is what we have. And with that, this week is complete. And we move into next week, which will be a bit of the prosecution, defense, closing statements. Heaven knows what else will happen next week. I will keep you guys posted. As I said earlier in the show, thank you all so much for sticking by me as I have done these recaps without Andy, as he's been away. I really, really do appreciate all of your support and your love and everything. I am going to stay on with the live crew for a little bit. Please do not go anywhere if you're watching live, but I'm going to wrap this up for the recap and for the podcast. Thank you guys so much. Please make sure you've hit that like, that sub, support it on whatever platform you're watching on. We so appreciate you. And thank you so much. We'll see you next week.